Good morning and welcome to the Weather Network. My name is Michelle Mackey. In today for Nicole Karkic. Here's what we are working on today. Extreme cold now, but a mild trend ahead for, well, much of Canada in the east and the west. Salts, and that's contributed a lot to those power outages. We'll have the details on that momentarily. And weather that doesn't help a chemical fire in Vancouver. All right, let's get to our weather story. A quick snapshot of the country. Here we go. We've got a weak clipper in the west that could bring some rain, some mixing to northern parts of Alberta through the evening. High pressure contributing to that cold through central Canada. And as we go into the east, we are dealing with some moisture through southern portions of the Maritimes that could affect Newfoundland as we move into the afternoon that we had on Tuesday. It's been a bit of a wintry week, hasn't it? All right, let's recap some of our snow totals that we saw on Wednesday. St. John's getting 6 centimeters of snow, a similar story for Halifax and Charlottetown, 4 centimeters as well. Now, while these aren't significant amounts, when you top that on what we've seen this season, that's a lot of snow to deal with. All right, as we move into today, we are dealing with 2 to 4 centimeters of snow expected through western portions of Newfoundland. And that's because we have a strong, cold westerly wind picking up some of that moisture in the sea and distributing it as snow, sea effect snow. Thanks for the video. All right. Here is your extreme cold warning for the areas highlighted in purple. This morning, we could see wind chill values approaching the -30s. This is dangerous cold, so do take care if you're heading outside. Always remember, the less exposed skin, the better. This afternoon through much of Quebec, you can see we're at -10s. We have a stable air mass in place, but the wind chills, they are variable just due to the different wind speeds, the different directions. And a quick snapshot into Ontario, we finally broke the streak. Toronto had 37 days under 0 degrees. Thanks, Chrissy. Great tips. You know, I'm pretty much done with winter. How about you? The good news is spring less than 15 days away, so we're getting there. Michelle Mackey joining you in today for Nicole Karkic. Thanks for making the Weather Network a part of your morning. Let's begin our weather story with a recap. The high temperatures across the country on Wednesday. You can see in the west, we still have that warming trend. 2 degrees in Calgary, right on par with seasonal. And as we move into the weekend, those temperatures are going to be on the rise. Here's what we can expect this morning. You can see the purples indicative of temperatures -15 or below. So cool through central and eastern Canada, and the temperatures in the east are going to drop as we move throughout the afternoon. It was a bit of a mess. Again, I'm sure you're like me, ready for winter to be over. This morning, wind chills throughout our Maritime and Atlantic provinces. St. John's, it's going to be feeling like -9, but Sherbrooke, that's where we're really getting into that deep freeze, feeling like -15. And again, as we move into tomorrow, those temperatures, they are going to drop. They're so cold in parts of Quebec that Environment Canada has issued an extreme cold warning. Temperatures approaching that -30 mark. That's dangerous. Give your cars a little bit of extra time to warm up, and also maybe bring a hot beverage with you and keep your skin covered. As we move into Ontario, wind chills also quite cool through the morning. Up in North Bay, -22, but no wind chill there. And you know what? Let's take you to North Bay right now, shall we? Certainly not as extensive as the snowfall that we're looking at in that video. This morning through northern Ontario, really getting into those cool temperatures through places like Pickle Lake, where we are in the -30s. Let's head to this must-see video.
Very good morning to you, Thursday, March the 5th, and in for Nicole Karkic, Michelle Mackey. Michelle, I think it's the first time we've worked together.
It is, and you know what? I'm liking the vibe we've got going on. This is fun.
Well, usually you're outside freezing, covering the storm, so it's nice to see you inside.
That's right. I'm okay being warm inside, because if I was out this morning in the city of Toronto, it's going to be feeling like -24.
Yeah, the cold air has come back, and across the east, let's start off. I'll show you some video. This is what it's been like the last couple of days.
Just feel the cold.
Meters per hour, of course, that was marginally better than Tuesday's 100K, and today won't be quite as windy as yesterday, however, still rather blustery, and as a result, some blowing snow.
Yeah, blowing snow, and we could pick up on some sea effect snow along the western shores of Newfoundland. Not extensive amounts, about 2 to 4 centimeters expected.
All right, keeping tabs on St. John and Charlottetown as we close in on potentially record-breaking winter season. What are we up to now in St. John?
All right, number 2 for St. John and number 3 for Charlottetown. Could they take the number 1 spot?
Do you want to?
Do you want to?
That's a big question. All right, let's go to Grimsby. Everything looks like a rink out there, so you need the sunglasses this morning because that sun's glare off the snow.
That's right. And that, of course, was all thanks to the freezing rain that we saw on Tuesday. And also, we have finally broken the streak.
Yes.
Look at this.
Toronto on March 3rd, and yesterday, Ottawa for the first time since January 23rd, and Montreal for the first time since January 19th got above the freezing mark. But it's a bit of a short-lived warmth, but there is some light at the end of this tunnel.
That's right. As we move into the weekend, you can see we gradually begin to increase those numbers, but we're still not seasonal until we get into next week.
Yeah, cold today in Ottawa and tomorrow, same story in Montreal, and then you'll start to see a little taste of spring. And of course, this weekend, the clocks go ahead for many across the country.
That's right. Let's head into the west now. Check out this video.
And Saskatchewan, we'll talk. This was yesterday in Saskatoon. Today's -3. Going to feel tropical.
Good morning. It's Thursday, March the 5th. I'm Michelle Mackey in today for Nicole Karkic. It's great to see you. Here's what we're working on today at the Weather Network and what we'll be discussing throughout the segment and the hour. Extreme cold now, but a mild trend ahead for much of southern Ontario. We'll also talk how salt contributed to all of those power outages that we saw through Ontario. Chrissy Van has a great story on that coming up. And weather doesn't help a chemical fire by any means in Vancouver. All right, let's take a quick look across the country, dealing with a weak clipper as it passes through northern Alberta into the afternoon. And we've got this stationary front. I like to think of it as a boundary between cold air to the north and warmer air south of that. Let's begin our weather story, shall we, in Toronto, though, of course, without power. And there's still about 1,000 customers waking up throughout the city with no power, and it is cold. We are talking about wind chill values in the -20 range for much of southern Ontario, so it's a chilly one. And let's head outside, bearing those chilly temperatures, if you will. And you're in Elmira. What's the latest, Rachel?
Always looking at that 7-day forecast. Next week, looking pretty good throughout Ontario.
That's right, Rachel. I'm the same way. I even sometimes look at the 14-day trend. That's how desperate for spring I am. All right, so you mentioned we had those warmer temperatures, mild in comparison, earlier this week. And because of that, we broke the streak, if you will. Toronto had 37 days under that freezing mark, but we broke that on March the 3rd. Of course, we had that messy system, though, on Tuesday night. We had some freezing rain, about 5 hours of it, through much of southern Ontario. Heading into Quebec, the big story is the extreme cold, so cold that Environment Canada has issued extreme cold warnings for the areas highlighted in purple, with wind chill values approaching the -30s. Remember, give your car a little bit of extra time to warm up, and also the less exposed skin, the better. As we look at our temperature trend into the east, we are cool. And Halifax, I want to point out -1 this afternoon, but we are going to see a big drop in those temperatures. Not only did we see snow, but we also saw really strong wind gusts. So strong on Tuesday, we actually had widespread school closures throughout the province because of all of that blowing snow. Here's a look at the snowfall totals. Of note, Deer Lake picking up 11 centimeters of snow. I'm Michelle Mackey in for Nicole Karkic, and it is time for Share Your Weather, the chance for you, the viewer, to get a personalized forecast in your backyard. All you need to do is send us a photo or a video of a nice picture outside, and you have the chance to get that forecast. And today, the forecast goes to Mr. Curto. He sent us this picture from Tiny Township, so that's just west of Midland, and he says, meet Ellie. That's his little dog, and little dog Ellie really likes the frozen beach. So Midland, it's also going to be frozen this morning, -12. Earlier overnight, we actually had an extreme cold warning in place. That has now dropped. It's just become more unpleasant, if you will. Not extremely cold, just unpleasant. Here's what we can expect for the next 7 days. You can see the temperatures. They do begin to increase into the weekend, but Saturday, we do see a chance of snow followed by lots of sunshine as we move into next week. And from your local forecast to a look across the country, milder air is flooding into the prairies. Well, I'm glad you're here making the Weather Network a part of your Thursday morning. Michelle Mackey joining you in today for Nicole Karkic, but she will be back next week. That's where you can find me on Twitter below. I'd love to hear from you. Let's begin our weather story with a recap of our high temperatures on Wednesday. Where we see the blues, those are temperatures below seasonal. Regina, -21 is the daytime high. But look at all of these oranges above seasonal in the East. St. John's and Halifax got to 4 degrees yesterday. But as we move into Friday, Friday, those temperatures, they are going to drop. This afternoon across the country, you can see lots of those purples still prevalent in central Canada, indicating temperatures below that minus 15 degree mark. But don't worry, they are going to get better for much of Ontario as we head into the weekend. Snowfall through Tuesday and Wednesday throughout the province. Widespread school closures as well. Not the case today, not as extensive anyways. Here's your wind chill this morning through the east. Montreal, it's going to be feeling like minus 20, so do make sure you bundle up before you head outside. Let's head now further to the north. Extreme cold warning is in place. Now, we don't have an extreme cold warning anymore through southern Ontario, but Rachel is joining us from Elmira, and I bet you're still feeling that cold.
I'll tell you why coming up in the show.
Oh, I'm very excited. And Rachel, I hope you can bring me some maple syrup. I know it's running dry, but I still want some. I am hungry. All right, let's get to your temperatures through Ontario. You can see those minus mid-20s this morning for places like Toronto. Give the car a little bit of extra time to warm up. And as we head further to the north, that's where we really start feeling that flood of cold Arctic air. High pressure is in place, so yes, we will see the sun, but those temperatures and wind chills in the minus mid-30s. That is dangerous. All right, high pressure in place for your Friday and into the weekend. As we move into Saturday, we could see some light snow through Ontario, and then the next big system on tap for Monday, tracking east after that. Let's head now to your must-see video. First is a car pileup. 23 cars piled up on the interstate down in New York. Let's get to your temperatures for Friday. You can see we do have those blues, but as we move into the weekend, they're going to start to moderate. Into southern Ontario particularly, those lighter colors, that's an indication of temperatures warming up. Stay with us right here on the Weather Network. Your locals are up next.
Well, very good morning to you. You're watching the Weather Network. It's Thursday, March the 5th. Our developing stories, extreme cold now, but a mild trend coming. Salt contributes to the power outages. Weather doesn't help the chemical fire in Vancouver. And I think we need a fourth line. Michelle Mackey joining the morning program in for Nicole Carter.
You know what? The last time we worked together was when you were training me. That's what I was thinking about it. So it's been a while.
All right.
All right, let's get to one of the top stories. Of course, we had widespread power outages through Toronto yesterday. Toronto Hydro has tweeted the outages have been restored, but there's approximately 490 customers still in the dark.
And it is very cold out there this morning. All right, now we take a look at this morning. So wind chills in the minus 20s from Montreal to Toronto, and in the minus 30s around Winnipeg. The good news across the prairies, temperatures are warming up, by the weekend, that warmer air will start to work its way a little further east.
That's right. Light at the end of the tunnel. The same, well, I mean, before we get there, let's talk about the extreme cold warning that we have. Environment Canada issuing this. We're talking about dangerous wind chills, Chris.
That's right. From James Bay to beyond the Saguenay River and feeling the minus 40s. And then in the north, wind chills minus 50 to minus 55. At Callowheat, you're in that Pond Inlet, Hall Beach in a Glulik. So frostbite in about 2 to 5 minutes under these kind of circumstances if you're not bundled up.
So if you think it's bad in Ontario, it's worse up there.
Oh, yes. The sun's glare reflecting off that is going to feel that. So it's light at the end of the tunnel. Very cold today, below seasonal. Northern Ontario. See that warm front coming in? That's going to help warm you up a little bit tomorrow. It's still a cold night in the south, but I'll take blue over purple when it comes to these weather maps.
Any day. You know what? Spring, 15 days away. How about that? Here's what we can expect for the next 7 days. You can see those temperatures. They begin to moderate as we move into next week.
All right, we're keeping track of the snow that's been falling in some of the major cities in the Maritimes.
Yeah, number 2 record for St. John, number 3 for Charlottetown. And I don't know, is this bragging rights for you? I think this is bragging rights.
I'm going to make a t-shirt called Snow Squatch 2015 and tour dates of all the snow over 15 centimeters that visited.
Well, we have a lot to talk about today. Thanks so much for tuning into the Weather Network. Michelle Mackey joining you this Thursday, March the 5th. We are getting close to spring on March the 20th. And of course, daylight savings is this Sunday. So we're getting there. Let's begin our weather story with a recap of the high temperatures that we saw across the country on Wednesday. Where we have the blues, that indicates temperatures below seasonal. White on par with seasonal, and twos, that is where we are above seasonal. It was quite mild as we were in the east. Let's head now to southern Ontario. This morning, those wind chills are frigid. We are talking wind chill values in the minus mid-20s, and that, of course, is all thanks to a nice and steady westerly wind. And outside, bearing that wind chill, is the wonderful Rachel Schutzen. Rachel, what's the latest where you are?
We'll dive into that story a little bit later on.
No sap. What a shame. I love maple syrup. What a great way to wake up. Hey, maybe a good breakfast idea for you at home, especially when we have a frigid day like this. Warming up with some pancakes. Yes, please. Through northern Ontario, wind chill values in the minus mid-30s, dangerously low. So do make sure, bundle up. Less exposed skin, the better. And remember, your pets, they get cold too, so don't keep them outside too long. Let's take a look now at our Great Lakes ice coverage. This is as of March the 5th today, 52% of Lake Ontario covered with ice. In total, we're at about 80% coverage. And a lot of this freezing, of course, happened in February. Frigid February, that's what I'm calling it. And March, messy March. At least that's what we saw at the start anyways. This morning, well, yes, the cold is returning. Those temperatures, lots of purples indicating cool temperatures. Into the afternoon, a little bit of moderation. Of course, the evening, it is frigid again. But as we move into Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we will see a return of some mild, even seasonal temperatures. Seasonal is around 2 degrees for the city of Toronto. Cold through much of Quebec, so cold that Environment Canada has issued an extreme cold warning with wind chill values at around minus 30. Again, dangerous wind chills.
Good morning to you. It's Thursday, March the 5th. And for meteorologist Nicole Karkic, we have Michelle Mackey joining us today.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. Oh, the pleasure, the happiness is mine.
Oh, you know what? This is working. I like it. All right. Here's what we're working on
Sure
today
thing.
at the Weather Network. Extreme cold now, but a mild trend on the way
I
for
like the sounds of
Ontario.
that.
Yeah, me too. And the salt that's contributed to power outages, Chrissy is going to have that full story for us throughout the hour.
Very nice.
And finally, weather that's not helping the chemical fire that was burning yesterday in Vancouver.
That's right, and it's another chilly morning to begin with. But systems move west to east. This big warm front here, the leading edge of Pacific air, and it's going to gradually go on quite a road trip all the way over towards the Atlantic Canada. Well, a series of these warm fronts, that's going to help bump up the temperatures. Big storms, incidentally.
Had those widespread power outages.
Absolutely.
And this morning, temperatures are cold. So there's still a few customers that don't have power on, and I bet they are pretty chilly.
Yes, and we have the warming trend coming for the weekend, but not here yet. Rachel Schutzen is joining us now. So, Rachel, where are you and what's it like there where you are?
We'll answer those questions all coming up.
All right.
Thanks, Rachel. I'm really hoping if we're really nice to Rachel,
Yeah.
she'll bring us back some maple syrup.
Absolutely. Okay.
Fingers crossed.
Well, congratulations to Ottawa and Montreal, because yesterday you finally broke the streak of consecutive days below zeros. We got up to nearly 2 degrees.
That's right, but we are still dealing with those cold temperatures through
yes.
Quebec. And this is thanks to not only a cold air mass, but we've got those winds out of the northwest, frigid wind chills.
Absolutely. This afternoon, Montreal minus 10, Quebec minus 10, minus 8 in Moncton, Halifax, just flurries today, but your temperatures will fall through the afternoon and evening. So any of that slush that formed yesterday.
Minus 2.
All right. This is how much snow we had. We had about 6 centimeters in St. John's, 11 in Deer Lake, 14 in Sydney. And then we saw some of that snow, of course, mix over to rain. Another 2 to 4 centimeters, not a big deal. Blustery today, but not as windy as the last couple.
That's right. Now, in terms of our historical snowfall seasons, we are really getting up there. St. John, number 2, number 3 for Charlottetown.
All right. And today's must-see video is...
Good morning, Canada. Thanks for making the Weather Network a part of your morning. My name's Michelle Mackey. It's great to see you. We've got a lot to talk about today. Let's start with the temperature story across the country. Through the afternoon, we are going to remain cold through central Canada, and those temperatures in the east are going to drop quite drastically as we move in through the overnight hours. Now let's head outside. Rachel Schutzen, where are you now? What's the latest, and are you managing to stay warm?
We'll be talking more about that throughout the show.
Thanks, Rachel. Yeah, I think I might have to just pay that place a visit because I love maple syrup. And as she mentioned, those temperatures, they will be warming up. I'll get to that in just a moment. But first, the wind chills through this morning in southern Ontario. They are frigid. We are talking about winds from the northwest. So on top of the cold air mass that we have, the wind chills, yeah, really going to be feeling cold, the minus mid-20s. So the morning, that's where we see the purples, temperatures below that minus 15 degree mark. Of course, through the evening, they drop again. But then come Friday, you can see this warm front passes through and lots of blues come into play, meaning temperatures are going to be just under freezing. And into next week, yeah, we're going to see those temperatures rise to seasonal, finally. Now, it was a cold February, wasn't it? So cold, Toronto, we had 37 days below the freezing mark. That ended on March the 3rd. The price we paid, of course, was the freezing rain. Unfortunately, that snow not going to melt anytime soon because Quebec, we are in an extreme cold warning for the areas highlighted in purple. Again, it's the same. It's that cold air mass, high pressure in place. So the sun will be out, but with those winds coming from the northwest, that's a look at those wind chills, feeling like the minus 20s, up further to the north, feeling like minus 41.
Good morning to you. It's Thursday, March the 5th, and our top stories that we're following today. Michelle Mackey, of course, in for Nicole Karkic. I believe that's one of the developing stories. Extreme cold now, mild trend ahead. That's good news, I'm sure.
Yes.
Salt contributes to the power outages in Ontario, and weather did not help the chemical fire in Vancouver. And Michelle, a story interesting on our website about the fish in the East Coast.
That's right. Actually, in Nova Scotia, you can see here, this is a really top trending story on the website. Widespread salmon are dying because it's been so cold.
Yes.
The tide's been low. This is a very unusual event, but maybe good for sushi lovers? I don't know.
You know what? I will say this. Today's temperatures aren't bad in Nova Scotia, but your big story is coming tomorrow morning. We're going to see wind chills or feel wind chills in the minus 20s once again. So cold air is settled, return to Ontario and Quebec, and it's going to do the same in Atlantic Canada. But at least it's a shorter visit this time.
That's right. And, you know, temperatures, as we mentioned, they are going to get mild as we head into the weekend. But we do have an extreme cold warning to deal with through portions of Quebec. Wind chill values at a dangerous level, and further to the north. It's the same
Iqaluit, right up towards Pond Inlet, wind chills in the minus 50 to minus 55 range. That means the risk of frostbite in less than 2 minutes if you're not bundled up. So a lot of purple on this map. I love Deep Purple, the band. Don't like Deep Purple on the map. And Michelle, a slight improvement into tomorrow.
That's right. We have that warm front that's going to be passing, so it is going to be slightly warmer, but we're still below seasonal.
No question. Northern Ontario, a lot of core temperatures flirting with minus 30, including Thunder Bay. All right, so what does this mean in terms of the long range? As we mentioned, it's a shorter visit of the cold because next week, into the weekend, and next week it's looking a little more promising.
I'm liking the way Wednesday is looking, 5 and sun. Yes, please. I can deal with that.
All right.
Let's head further to the west.
Been very cold in Saskatchewan the last couple of days, but look at this. We're starting to see a little bit of a rebound. Now, this is this morning, still very chilly, but warmer air is on the way. And as we look into the critical weekend, look at Regina, 1 degree, -1 in Winnipeg.
It's been a while, so this is going to be a welcome relief out of that deep freeze for the weekend. Lots of those lighter colors flooding into the west.
All right, and even across the east, we'll look more in detail coming up.
It's Thursday, March the 5th. It's great to see you. Michelle Mackey in today for meteorologist Nicole Karkic. Let's begin our weather story with a snapshot of what we can expect across the country. We have that milder air that continues for the south coast of British Columbia. They've really been lucky, haven't they? Meanwhile, through the prairies in central Canada, cold and sunny and blustery as we head into the east. But as we get into Toronto, it's really been a frigid morning, not only in Toronto, but through much of southern Ontario. As we move into tomorrow, though, and into the weekend, we are going to see those temperatures moderate due to the passage of a cold front. So finally going to be approaching those seasonal norms. Let's head now outside with Rachel Schutzen. Rachel, what's the latest where you are?
Hoping for some warmer temperatures, and we're going to get them into next week.
Thanks, Rachel. Yeah, a lot of trees equals a lot of maple syrup. For me, bring me back some maple syrup. Thanks so much for that, Rachel. All right, let's get back into the weather story. We finally beat that consecutive frigid February. We had 37 consecutive days under that freezing mark in the city of Toronto, but we finally broke through that on Tuesday. The price we paid, of course, was that messy mix. We saw some freezing rain into the evening hours. But don't fear, we aren't getting back into that freezing rain for a little while yet. Toronto, Saturday, that's our next chance of seeing some flurries. You can see those temperatures, they do begin to moderate. Similar story as we head into Quebec and eastern Canada. Lots of sunshine. It's beautiful. It's actually going to be a beautiful day today if you're thinking of heading up for a ski or a snowboard. Temperatures above zero and sunny skies. So it may not be spring yet, but that's spring skiing to me. Okay, let's take a look yesterday at Wednesday's highs. You can see we really have that temperature difference between Alberta and Saskatchewan. Saskatoon, minus 19 was your high. But look at today. We really see that bump up in temperatures, minus 3 and 7 in Calgary. And that is all thanks to warm Pacific air making its way across the Rockies. And again, by today, it's going to reach all the way into Saskatoon, tomorrow, all the way into Manitoba. Yes, please. Here's a look at your wind chills this morning. So yes, still frigid this morning in terms of your wind chills, but you know what? We are going to see some moderation. Stay with us right here on the Weather Network. Coming up next, developing stories.
And everyone here, you're going to have a lot of work to do with all these maple trees.
All right, now I have an uncontrollable craving for pancakes and a glass of Pinot Grigio.
I'm with you. I think that's a good combo.
All right, current systems, Michelle, in the west, what's going on?
Yeah, well, we are dealing with this weak clipper. We could possibly see some freezing rain through portions of northern Alberta as we move into the evening hours, but cold this morning through the prairies.
Yes, but that warm front will be the leading edge of some milder air. And this big storm system, yesterday in parts of Mississippi, it was 28 degrees Celsius. They're getting freezing rain right now. So nasty, nasty stuff. And that's going to stay south of the Great Lakes, south of the St. Lawrence, and for the most part, south of the Maritimes.
That's right. And meanwhile, as we go into Quebec, we are dealing with this extreme cold warning. I mean, we've got temperatures in the minus 20s. You couple that with those northwesterly winds.
Yes.
Frigid wind chills.
No wind chill or no extreme cold warnings in northern Ontario, but it's minus 31 in Thunder Bay, minus 34 around Chapleau, and with the wind chill in the Iqaluit feeling like minus 50 and even colder towards Pond Inlet. So Nunavut shivering once again. All right, great story here on our website.
Yeah, this is kind of a feel-good story. Someone making the most out of the frigid temperatures that we've had.
Yeah.
So a woman in Ottawa, she decided to knit an Afghan, but each row corresponds to a specific temperature. So you can see the colder it is, the darker the temperature. I think in Ottawa, we're getting a lot of dark colors in this Afghan.
Oh my goodness, yes indeed. Well, this afternoon we're going to be around minus 10 in Ottawa, minus 10 in Montreal, and minus 10 in Sherbrooke. Halifax, some scattered flurries, 0 degrees. Your big story will be tomorrow morning. This time tomorrow, it's going to be in the wind chills, in the minus 20s across the Maritimes, so much colder air flooding in for tonight.
That's right. And this afternoon, it is still going to be quite chilly as we move into southern Ontario, northern Ontario as well. Look at some of those wind chills in blue. That's the feels like temperature.
Absolutely. Well, we're starting off very cold in Manitoba and Saskatchewan, wind chills in the minus 20s and minus 30s, but we will be warming up beginning today in Saskatchewan, tomorrow in Manitoba.
Thanks, Rachel. And because those temperatures are so cold, do you know what you should do, Rachel? You should get that maple syrup, put a line of it in the snow, roll it up, and that's a good excuse to just eat maple syrup straight up. All right, Michelle Mackey joining you in today for Nicole Karkic. Let's take a look at the consecutive days that we've had below 0 degrees. Montreal for the win, 43 days under the freezing mark, but that was broken yesterday. We got up to finally above 0. Now this morning, you can see Rachel, she looked pretty cold out there, and that is because we have temperatures minus 15 or below, and that's not including the wind chill. Through the overnight, it is going to come right back down, but then look at this. We've got that warm front sliding through, and by Friday, blues begin to move into place for much of Ontario, and as we move into the weekend, we are finally going to see those temperatures rebound to closer to seasonal. Sunday, look at that, sun and 1 in Toronto. All right, you've got to see this. Perfect day to get out, maybe have a ski or a snowboard, an early one as we get into the weekend. Now let's take a look now at the temperature contrast that we had Wednesday in comparison to today. Still dealing with that warm Pacific air in Alberta, 2 degrees for Calgary, but Saskatoon really seeing that contrast, minus 19, minus 21s. But look at today. Finally, some of that air beginning to flood further to the east. Saskatoon and Regina getting up to minus 3, minus 4. So that's the good news. But this morning, we still have to get through those wind chills. Regina, it's going to be feeling like minus 30. These are dangerous wind chills. You get that cold air mass coupled with winds from the northwest. Doesn't take long to really feel that frigid Arctic air. Now, as we move further to the west, it continues to be above seasonal, sunny and clear for much of the west coast. You can see that ridge in the jet stream indicating those temperatures are still above 0 the further we go to the south. All right, you've got to see this video as well. Well, if you're heading south today, here's what you're leaving behind in Canada. You can see we have lots of sun right across the country. But those temperatures, they're cold through the prairies, particularly through Manitoba. All right, let's go east to west. We've got a high of -15 in Halifax Friday, -14 in Toronto. You can see Vancouver, a nice 5 to finish off the work and school week. Down south, though, look at all of that sunshine, temperatures in the high 20s.